Ever since its conception, Battle for Neighborville, which was originally Garden Warfare 3, was constantly leaking. But where did these leaks come from, and how did this all happen? Well, that's what I want to find out, so press that subscribe button and let's go back through time. First off, Garden Warfare 3 began development in 2017, right after the Frontline Fighters Garden Warfare 2 update. Garden Warfare 2 had its updates abruptly ended early so they could move on to a new game, new monetization models, and mechanics pushed by EA. However, we didn't know anything about the game throughout 2017, and our first leak came in 2018 thanks to the PvZ comics. In February, a listing for the second comic in the Garden Warfare series went up, and its description said that it would bridge the details between Garden Warfare 2 and Garden Warfare 3. If you read the comic though, you'd know it has no relation to BFN at all. In fact, the comic is basically filler. Aside of introducing the best comic character, Scooter the Pea Shooter, it's literally nothing. It adds next to nothing to the PvZ universe, which is weird because the other Garden Warfare books add plot details between each game. The original description for this comic implies that it would have done the same. However, the comic is basically just more Garden Warfare 2, which we already had in the first comic. I have a theory that this comic was rewritten very late in development, and there are multiple possible reasons for why. It's possible that Garden Warfare 3 was delayed, so the comic couldn't release without revealing too much considering the game wasn't even announced yet. Or the new PvZ reboot was already taking effect, and the game was undergoing big changes, making the comic outdated and inaccurate to the product it was promoting. The reboot theory seems the most plausible because humans are much more prevalent here than in any other Garden Warfare comic. Garden Warfare Volume 1 barely featured humans outside of the intro, and it was very accurate to Garden Warfare 1 and 2's world. In-game, all the levels were vacant. You could see portraits of people and signs that people had been there, but nobody was around. The games leaned more into an apocalyptic feel similar to the original. The reboot made humans much more relevant to newer PvZ stories like PvZ 3 and BFN. And guess what you can find in BFN? Humans in hiding that you can talk to. A human in a well. A human hiding behind his front door. A human in a porta potty. Something similar happens in the comic. Humans are in hiding and the protagonists help them. Alongside that, the comic also features some of BFN's character redesigns. Pea Shooter noticeably has the big blocky eyebrows that only appear in BFN, instead of his leaf eyebrows in Garden Warfare. Foot Soldier zombies have playing cards in their helmets, another BFN design change. And 0 variants show up in this comic, aside from Disco Chomper as a background gag, when variants were everywhere in the first comic. This comic has all the stepping stones for BFN without fully committing to it, which is why I think it got changed at the last minute. However, the comic itself doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. It released in 2018 and was quickly forgotten. Shortly after people noticed Garden Warfare 3 was mentioned in the store description, it was removed. On March 10th, 2019, Zack Scott Games uploaded a video featuring some questions for the developers and their answers. It was stated that fans could expect news around EA Play or E3. As we know now, that didn't happen. The game was shadow dropped. While Garden Warfare 3 was in development on June 9th in 2018, PopCap went back on their word and announced that they would be making more Garden Warfare 2 updates. Further clarification was posted by Justin Weeb explaining why they did this. The real reason was because Garden Warfare 3 was taking too long, and they had no more new content to push through Rux. So a smaller team worked on updates while the main team continued working on the new game. Garden Warfare 2 ended up getting some pretty small nothing burger updates. However, the last one, Tale of the Taco, revealed something huge that was not meant to be seen by the public. 5 days after release, data miner NM Gaming found unused strings referencing the new game. It read, "Access to the rewards required Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville games sold separately. Persistent internet connection, all game updates, and an EA account. In-game rewards accessible until 12 AM PST January 1st, 2020. This also implies the Founders Edition rewards were originally handled in Garden Warfare 2. Instead of logging into BFN every week to get rewards like in the final game, it seems you would have had to log into Garden Warfare 2 and do something there that would then grant you the item in the other game. It also implies that the game would have released in 2020, about 75 days later than the actual release date. A portfolio showcasing work on BFN's style guide reveals that December 21st, 2019 would have been a potential release date, which is still slightly after launch. The only real takeaway from this is that the game was very clearly rushed. It's not too unlikely that EA kept pushing the release date forward so the game could finally get out. Oh. In May, everything was chaotic. A user on the Chinese social media platform Baidu Taibu started making posts revealing information about the upcoming game, such as upcoming weapons and levels. A lot of these eventually surfaced on Reddit through a different user who claimed to be friends with the original poster. According to them, their friend was an artist working on the game at EA Shanghai and was flown over to Vancouver to playtest. Are they telling the truth? Who knows? All of the posts today were deleted, but I was digging through old messages from years ago and managed to recover screenshots of them. Unfortunately, I don't have the original post in Chinese. Everything we have today is translated through Google, so it's messy, but we can still understand most of it. Some things they said ended up being true, while some weren't. Here's the post about Acorn. They say he has 75 HP, a shotgun primary, a remote control bomb, an oak transformation, and a dash. All of this was true except for the shotgun part. Acorn has used a rapid-fire weapon since its release. However, Oak actually has an unused shotgun primary in the files. Next is a screenshot of the new mushroom class, Nightcap. For the longest time, people thought that this was an early design because the colors looked strange. But now that we have the original post, the poster clarifies to ignore the colors since a filter had been applied that smoothed it out. It's possible to restore her design by editing the saturation. They also mentioned throwing a black ball for stealth, which is the Shadow Dome ability. The second ability says it references DNF Soul Calibur. After looking into it, they were probably describing Feng Fu as something similar to a critical finish move. The last ability mentions being able to walk around stealthily and that she can double jump. All of that ended up being accurate. Another post mentions a female zombie with skateboarding shoes, which is fairly accurate with the translation error. Electric Slide rides on roller skates. There's also a female zombie in a spaceship, which is obviously Space Cadet. They also mentioned HoverGo 3000 would not be returning. Another post mentions PvE regions being Dreamwood, She's Mine, and Town Center. When asked about changes to All-Star and Super Brains, they mentioned customization being able to change parts like outfits, shoes, and other accessories. Interestingly, they said they didn't know anything about variants. They also say Super Brains can release an Energy Wave, which is a flying fist ability, and bring up a shield when aiming. Again, all true. In a reply dated May 20th, they mentioned that the game has basically been completed, and the team was mainly working on fixing bugs. If that's true, that means there were 4 months between that post and launch. 4 months dedicated to fixing bugs, and the game still launched as a mess. So cool. Lastly, someone asked if the game would be announced at E3 that year, and they said it definitely would. That means 2 credible sources said the game would be at E3 and it wasn't. At the time, a lot of these leaks were dismissed as fake because the game just didn't look like Garden Warfare. This is what we call foreshadowing. On July 24th, the Battle for Neighborville website accidentally went live early, confirming the name and revealing several features. A month later, Codename Picnic playtest emails were sent out to fans. Between August 1st and August 6th, playtests were live. Because fans were able to participate, it was inevitable that people would share screenshots and gameplay. Although PopCap tried to copyright strike leakers, the content still circulated in smaller online circles and was impossible to fully stop. Most of the leaks were confirmed through this playtest. People didn't mind the lack of variants in the alpha because they assumed the final game would have way more content available. Oh, how naive you were, Plants vs. Zombies community. Shortly after that, on August 12th, a rough version of the trailer leaked online. It was most likely leaked by the same person as before, but we don't actually know for sure. Regardless, it spread extremely quickly across the internet, getting re-uploaded everywhere. EA attempted to copyright strike uploads for a while, but eventually gave up. The trailer was already everywhere. Jeremy Van Hooser, who worked on Garden Warfare 1 and 2 and briefly worked on 3, before leaving expressed disappointment on Twitter. Making a game is hard. It's damn near impossible. Your team works on the design, art, code, and all the other magic bits that make a game for years. So when an unfinished game trailer leaks early and you miss that chance for the perfect first impression, that kinda sucks. But 4 days later he shared art of Nightcap with the hashtag don't sue me. So okay. Otherwise, that's kind of it. Out of nowhere, Founders Edition Shadow dropped on September 4th alongside a trailer, and on October 18th, the game fully released. Aside of that trailer, PopCap did next to nothing to market the game. A lot of people like to blame the fanbase for the reason the game died, but that's complete cope. The reason the game failed was entirely EA's fault. The decision to remove variants and replace the sticker shop with upgrades and an item shop came from the higher-ups at EA, who believed that the Garden Warfare 2 format couldn't work anymore. They wanted the next entry to resemble other popular games like Fortnite and Overwatch, and the team working on the game was largely the same people who worked on the previous 2. This wasn't new developers randomly changing things. It was decisions forced by executives who only cared about money. I'm also convinced the reason PopCap never really formally announced the game was because they knew removing variants would cause backlash. If they told fans upfront that the most iconic mechanic of the series was gone, the game would have received heavy criticism and bad PR. Instead, they let people buy the game without knowing. Everyone assumed variants would be in the game before launch, and PopCap's refusal to be transparent made their decisions feel sudden and untrustworthy. If the game had received proper marketing beforehand, it probably would have been like Replanted, where people immediately criticized every bad decision. Why remove variants? Why abandon the old branding? Why overhaul the entire art style? Unfortunately, EA's decisions ended up killing the Garden Warfare series and shutting down PopCap Vancouver. Now all we're left with are mobile game cash grabs because most of the people who actually cared about the franchise don't work there anymore. When the people running the franchise clearly have no idea what they're doing, and every decision feels completely illogical, people seem to forget that they're not thinking about the fans but their wallets.
Chat, we cooked or just french fried?